Dr. Hee-jin worked faster than she ever had in her life. The quantum communication link had to be precise. Too weak and the signal wouldn't reach the organic core. Too strong and it might damage whatever consciousness existed inside the devourer. Link established, she announced. I'm sending a basic mathematical sequence. Prime numbers. Something universal. On the view screen, the 3 devourer segments stopped retreating. Their surfaces rippled and pulsed. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the response came, not in words or numbers, but in pure emotion transmitted through quantum entanglement. Pain. Endless, terrible pain. Loneliness that spanned millennia. And underneath it all, a desperate plea for it to end. Hee-jin gasped, tears streaming down her face. It's aware. It's conscious. And it's been suffering for so long. Can it communicate clearly? Daeho asked. I'm trying to establish a translation matrix. Give me a minute. Her hands moved across the controls. I'm using mathematical concepts as a bridge. Geometry, physics, constants. Things that transcend language. Slowly, painfully, communication became possible. The entity that had been the devourer shared its story. Not in words, but in concepts and images transmitted directly to their minds. It had been born in another universe, one that was dying. Its civilization had created it as their last hope. A living construct that could harvest energy from the collapse of reality itself. The plan was for it to sustain their civilization until they could find a way to survive. But something went wrong. The universe collapsed too fast. The civilization died anyway. The entity, alone and damaged, fled through a rift into this universe. But the machinery designed to harvest energy from a dying universe didn't shut off. It kept working, kept consuming, kept converting matter into energy for a purpose that no longer existed. The organic core, the consciousness at the center, was trapped. It couldn't stop the machinery. It couldn't control its own actions. For thousands of years, it had been forced to watch itself destroy civilization after civilization, consuming billions of lives to fuel an endless hunger it never chose. Can we shut off the machinery? Daeho asked. Hee-jin studied the data flowing through the quantum link. Maybe. The organic core is the power source. If we can modify its quantum signature, the machinery might stop recognizing it as fuel, but the process would be dangerous. We'd need to send someone inside the entity with a specialized AI core that can rewrite quantum patterns. That's a suicide mission, Engineer Boksoon said flatly. The environment inside that thing would kill anyone in minutes. Commander Taesung stood up. I'll go. Everyone turned to look at him. The young officer who had been terrified 11 years ago now stood calm and determined. Commander, you don't have to, Daeho said. Yes, I do, Taesung replied. I watched the Cortesians die being brave. I watched our crew die buying us time. I've been scared this whole mission, Captain. But I finally understand something. Courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about choosing to do something important even when you're terrified. He smiled slightly. Besides, someone should represent humanity when we save the monster instead of killing it. That's what we do, right? We think differently. Daeho wanted to argue, to order him to stand down, but he saw the determination in Taesung's eyes. This was his choice. Dr. Hee-jin, how long will the process take? 4 to 6 hours, depending on variables. The person inside will be conscious for maybe 2 hours before the radiation levels become too dangerous. After that, she didn't finish the sentence. Taesung nodded. Understood. Let's begin. The preparations took an hour. They built a specialized shuttle with maximum shielding. Dr. Hee-jin programmed an AI core that could interface with both human and alien quantum structures. Veltar insisted on training Taesung in meditation techniques to help him endure the pain. Before he left, the commander said goodbye to the crew. He hugged Boksoon, who cried quietly. He shook hands with Daeho. Captain, if this works, humanity just changed the rules of the galaxy. We showed that monsters can be saved. That's worth dying for. It is, Daeho agreed. But I wish we had another way. We don't. And that's okay. Taesung climbed into the shuttle. Tell my family I wasn't scared at the end. He was lying. Everyone knew it. But the lie was kind, so no one corrected him. The shuttle launched and approached the nearest devourer segment. The entity's surface opened, creating a passage. It understood what they were trying to do. It wanted this to work as badly as they did. Taesung piloted the shuttle deep into the entity's core. His voice came over the communication channel describing what he saw. Tunnels of organic metal, pulsing chambers filled with stolen energy, and at the center the childlike form of light still curled in endless pain. "I see it," Taesung said. "I'm beginning the upload now." The AI core activated. It began analyzing the quantum patterns that bound the organic consciousness to the parasitic machinery. The process was delicate, like trying to untangle a knot while wearing thick gloves. "First hour complete," Taesung reported. "My radiation exposure is at 40% of lethal levels. The entity is cooperating. I can feel it trying to help." On the Phoenix, the crew could only watch and wait. Dr. Hyjin monitored the progress through the quantum link. The Devourer segments remained motionless, all their energy focused on the process happening at their core. "Second hour complete," Taesung said. His voice was weaker. "Radiation at 90%. I'm starting to feel it, but we're close. Just a little longer." "Commander, you need to evacuate now," Daeho ordered. "We can finish remotely." "Negative, Captain. The AI needs manual adjustments. Human intuition." "I'm staying," Taesung coughed. "Besides, I'm having an interesting conversation with our friend here. It's showing me things. Memories of its civilization. They were beautiful, Captain. They loved art and mathematics. They didn't deserve to die." "Neither do you," Daeho said quietly. "Everyone dies, Captain. I'm just choosing how." The third hour passed. Taesung's vital signs were critical. His voice was barely a whisper. But the AI core was nearly finished. The quantum patterns were separating. The machinery was losing its hold on the organic consciousness. "Almost there," Taesung breathed. "I can see it working. The entity is thanking me. Or us or humanity. Hard to tell. It's showing me what it wants to become. Not a destroyer. A protector. It wants to help, Captain. After everything it did, it wants to make it right." "That's good," Daeho said, tears in his eyes. "That's very good, Commander. Finalizing the upload now. Tell everyone. Tell them I'm not scared anymore. Tell them I understand. This is what humans do. We save things. Even monsters. Especially monsters." The quantum link flared bright. The AI core completed its work. The parasitic machinery recognized that it had lost its power source and began shutting down. The Devourer segments shuddered as their aggressive systems deactivated. Taesung's vital signs flatlined. The bridge of the Phoenix was silent, except for quiet crying. Engineer Boksoon openly wept. Velthar placed a hand on her sword in salute. Dr. Hyejin stared at her screens, watching the miraculous transformation happening inside the entity. The organic consciousness was free. For the first time in thousands of years, it was no longer forced to consume and destroy. The machinery that had enslaved it was dormant. The three segments began recombining into a single form, but it looked different now. Less organic mechanical nightmare, more like a crystalline structure that glowed with soft light. The entity spoke through the quantum link. Its voice was ancient and young at the same time, with traces of Taesung's courage woven through it. It thanked humanity for giving it freedom. It offered a covenant. It would repair what damage it could and protect the galaxy from threats like the one it had been. "We accept," Daeho said formally. "We call you Guardian now." "Not Devourer. Guardian." The newly named Guardian began its work immediately. It traveled to the nearest system it had consumed and used its vast power to restore the dead worlds. It couldn't bring back the billions who had died, but it could ensure their civilizations were not forgotten. It built monuments. It preserved their art and history. It became what it had always wanted to be, a protector. The Phoenix returned to Earth 3 months later. The ship was battered, missing 7 of its 17 modules. The crew that disembarked was smaller than the one that had left. The funeral for Commander Taesung and the other fallen crew members was attended by millions. Representatives from the refugee species came to honor the humans who had chosen mercy over vengeance. The elderly Cortesian who had called them cowards stood at the memorial and publicly apologized. "I was wrong," he said to the gathered crowd. "Real courage isn't charging at your enemy. Real courage is choosing the harder path. The humans could have destroyed the Devourer. Instead, they saved it. That took more bravery than any warrior's death." Captain Daeho retired after the funeral. He wrote a book about the 11 years in the battle. It became required reading in every military academy across dozens species. The central lesson was simple. Sometimes the best victory is the one where everyone survives, even your enemy. Dr. Hyejin continued her research, now with assistance from the Guardian. The entity shared knowledge from its original universe, leading to breakthroughs in physics, energy generation, and medicine. The 17 modules of the Phoenix struck simultaneously from different vectors. Quantum disruptors fired in perfect synchronization, hitting the Devourer's surface at precisely calculated intervals. Blue-white beams carved into the entity's skin, exploiting those critical 3-microsecond windows before adaptation could complete. The Devourer screamed. Not with sound, but with a pulse of energy that made every sensor spike and every crew member's head pound. The entity had felt real pain for the first time in centuries. Direct hits on all target zones, Commander Tae-sung reported, his voice tight with excitement. Wounds are forming. It's working. But as they watched, the wounds began to close. The Devourer's surface rippled and shifted, its adaptive shields analyzing the attack pattern. Within 30 seconds, the quantum disruptors were only half as effective. It's learning, Dr. Hyejin said from her station. Faster than predicted. We need to change tactics. Module 7 and 12 switch to kinetic barrage, Daeho ordered. Hit the same wounds with physical projectiles while it's adapted for energy weapons. The two modules launched thousands of tungsten rods at relativistic speeds. The projectiles tore through the partially adapted shields and punched deep into the Devourer's mass. Dark fluid sprayed into space, freezing instantly. The entity responded with terrifying speed. Black tendrils shot out from its surface, each 1 kilometers long and impossibly fast. They targeted Module 7 with gravitational weapons that twisted space itself. Module 7, emergency jump, Daeho shouted. The module tried to jump, but the gravitational distortion was too strong. Space folded around it like paper being crumpled. The module's shields flared bright blue, then white, then simply collapsed. The entire module, with its crew of 37, was crushed into a point smaller than a marble. Module 7 destroyed, Tae-sung reported, his voice hollow. Module 12 is damaged, jumping to safe distance. 2 more tendrils lashed out. Module 3 managed to dodge, its pilot using the spiral combat techniques Velthar had taught. But Module 9 wasn't fast enough. The tendril wrapped around it and pulled. The module's hull groaned under impossible stress before breaking apart. Module 9 gone, Tae-sung said. Total casualties now at 71. Daeho forced himself to stay calm. They had planned for losses. Each module was independent for exactly this reason. All modules implement pattern delta. Don't give it time to target. The remaining 15 modules began moving in complex patterns, never staying in one position for more than 2 seconds. They fired from constantly changing angles, mixing weapon types, trying to keep the Devourer from adapting to any single strategy. It worked for 20 minutes. They carved dozens of wounds into the entity. They destroyed sections of its surface. They were winning. Then the Devourer did something no one predicted. Its massive form shuddered and began to split. The single entity divided into 3 smaller ones, each still the size of a large asteroid. The 3 parts moved independently, coordinating their attacks. Oh no, Engineer Baksoon whispered from engineering. It's copying us. It saw our modular advantage and replicated it. The 3 Devourer segments attacked in perfect coordination. Tendrils from 3 directions at once. Gravitational lances that complemented each other. Module 15 and Module 4 were destroyed before they could react. Module 6 managed to jump away, but not before losing its weapon systems. We're losing, Tae-sung said flatly. We can't fight 3 of them. Velthar, commanding the fighter squadrons, spoke up. Captain, request permission to engage directly. My fighters can get inside its defense range. Denied, Daeho said. You'll be crushed like the modules. Then we're just waiting to die, Velthar snapped. Let me try something. Daeho looked at the tactical display. They had 11 modules left, and the Devourer was adapting faster with each exchange. In another hour, maybe less, they would be completely ineffective. Dr. Hyejin suddenly spoke up. Captain, I have an idea. It's dangerous and probably insane. Those are my favorite kind, Daeho said. The binary stars. Their gravitational interaction creates massive plasma streams between them. If we can destabilize one star's corona and channel the plasma through controlled rifts, we can create an environment so chaotic that even the Devourer can't adapt fast enough. That would kill us too, Baksoon pointed out. Not if we're prepared for it, Hyejin countered. Our shields are designed for the plasma. The Devourer's shields are designed to adapt to weapons. Plasma from a destabilized star isn't a weapon. It's a natural phenomenon. Its shields won't know how to respond immediately. Tae-sung was already running calculations. We'd need to position all remaining modules precisely around the stars. One mistake and we get caught in the plasma stream ourselves. I know, Hyejin said. But we're losing anyway. This gives us a chance. Daeho made the decision. Do it. All modules, new coordinates incoming. Prepare for stellar destabilization sequence. As the modules moved into position, the 3 Devourer segments pursued. They had learned to predict the module's movements, adapting to human tactics in real time. Module 2 took a glancing hit and lost power to its engines. It drifted helplessly as a tendril approached. Module 2 crew, this is Captain Daeho. Abandon module and evacuate to Module 13. Negative, Captain, came the response from Module 2's commander. We've still got weapons. We'll hold it off while you set up the trap. That's an order, Commander. Respectfully, Captain, go to hell. Module 2 out. Module 2's remaining crew fired everything they had at the approaching Devourer segment. They lasted 43 seconds before the module was torn apart. Their sacrifice bought time for the others to reach their positions. All modules in position, Tae-sung reported. Ready to begin destabilization. Execute, Daeho ordered. The Phoenix modules fired specialized torpedoes into the larger of the binary stars. The torpedoes burrowed into the star's photosphere and detonated, releasing exotic particles that disrupted the magnetic fields containing the star's corona. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. A pillar of plasma erupted from the star's surface, shooting across space toward its companion star. The plasma stream was millions of kilometers long and hotter than anything nature normally produced. Here it comes, Hyejin said. Modules activate specialized shielding now. The remaining 10 modules lit up with shields designed specifically for this moment. The shields didn't try to block the plasma. They redirected it, channeling it around the modules like water around stones in a river. The 3 Devourer segments weren't so lucky. The plasma hit them at the same time from multiple angles. Their adaptive shields tried to respond, but plasma isn't a weapon. It's matter in a state of extreme energy. The shields didn't know whether to deflect, absorb, or reflect it. The Devourer segments began to burn. Their surfaces boiled. The black tendrils withered. For the first time, the entity was taking damage it couldn't immediately heal. It's working, Tae-sung shouted. The segments are retreating. But Dr. Hyejin was staring at her sensors with a strange expression. Captain, I'm getting readings from inside the Devourer. There's something at its core. Something organic. What do you mean, organic? I mean living. Not mechanical. Not quantum, biological. Hyejin's hands flew over her controls. The plasma is stripping away the outer layers. I can see deeper now. Captain, there's a creature at the center of each segment. A creature in pain. Daeho moved to her station. Show me. On the screen, partially obscured by plasma and energy, he saw something that changed everything. At the core of the Devourer was a form that looked almost like a child, if a child could be made of light and suffering. It was curled in a fetal position, surrounded by machinery that pulsed and fed off its existence. Is it controlling the Devourer? Daeho asked. No, Hyejin said softly. I think it is the Devourer. Or was before something turned it into this. The machinery is parasitic. It's forcing the creature to consume, to destroy, to survive at any cost. Captain, I don't think this thing chose to become a monster. The bridge was silent except for the sound of alarms and systems straining under the plasma storm. Everyone stared at the screen. Velthar spoke first. This thing destroyed my people. Killed billions. And you're saying it's a victim? I'm saying it might be both, Hyejin replied. A victim that became a weapon, trapped in a cycle it can't break. Daeho looked at the tactical display. The 3 Devourer segments were badly damaged, retreating toward the edge of the system. The Phoenix modules could pursue and finish them. They had the firepower now, with the entity weakened and unable to fully adapt to the plasma environment. Commander Tae-sung, can we destroy it? Daeho asked. Yes, sir. It would cost us probably 5 more modules, maybe all of them, but we could do it. Daeho stood silent, thinking. Every tactical instinct said to destroy the enemy while it was weak. Every human who had died, every civilization that had fallen demanded vengeance. But he remembered the Cortesian warriors who had called him a coward for retreating. They had chosen courage and honor. They were all dead. Dr. Heejin, can we communicate with it? Maybe, if I can establish a quantum link directly to the organic core, bypassing the machinery. Do it, Captain, Taesung said carefully. If we don't destroy it now, it might recover and kill us all. The Phoenix traveled through a graveyard. Every system they passed told the same story. Dead planets, broken space stations, debris fields that had once been proud civilizations. The crew watched in silence as their sensors cataloged the destruction. Commander Taesung stood at his station, watching a ruined city drift past on the view screen. The buildings were still intact, but there was no life. The Devourer had taken only what it needed, leaving empty shells behind. How many lived there? He asked quietly. Dr. Hyjin checked her readings. Based on the city size, maybe 2 million. They were Cortesians, I think. One of the species that called us cowards. They died being brave, Taesung said. That should count for something. It didn't save them, Daeho said from his chair. He wasn't being cruel, just honest. Courage without a plan is just dying with style. We need to be smarter. The Phoenix traveled for 3 weeks following the trail of destruction. They passed 7 dead systems before reaching Haven's Edge, a hidden refugee station built inside a hollowed-out asteroid. Thousands of survivors from dozens of species lived there, hiding from the Devourer's path. When the Phoenix docked, Daeho went to meet the station's leaders. The meeting room was crowded with representatives from species he recognized and some he didn't. All of them looked tired and scared. We heard a human ship was coming, one leader said. She was from a species called the Trainoth, with purple skin and 4 arms. Are you here to evacuate us? No, Daeho said. We're here to hunt the thing that made you refugees. The room erupted in voices. Some laughed. Some shouted. One elderly Cortesian stood and pointed at Daeho. You ran from the battle. You fled while warriors died. Now you come back with one ship and think you can succeed where fleets failed. Daeho waited for the noise to die down. Yes, because we spent 11 years preparing. We studied the enemy. We built new weapons. We learned from every mistake the Galactic fleet made, and now we're going to try something different. What could one ship do? The Trainoth leader asked. Watch and find out, Daeho said simply. But I didn't come here to argue. I came to offer you a choice. Anyone who wants to witness this fight can join us. Not as warriors, but as observers. If we fail, someone should survive to tell others what we tried. The room went silent. Finally, Velthar stepped forward. I will go, others followed. 23 volunteers from 7 different species. They knew they might die, but they were tired of running. They wanted to see someone fight back. The Phoenix departed Haven's Edge with its new passengers. Daeho assigned them quarters and made sure they had access to the observation decks. They weren't prisoners. They were witnesses. The hunt began in earnest. Using long-range sensors and predictions from Dr. Hyjin's models, they tracked the Devourer's path. The entity moved slowly but deliberately, following dense star clusters where more civilizations lived. It's intelligent, Heejin explained during a briefing. It doesn't just consume randomly. It chooses paths that maximize its intake. It's efficient. Can we predict where it will go next? Daeho asked. I have 3 likely targets. Heejin displayed a star map. All 3 are populated systems. Combined, they hold about 15 billion lives. Taesung looked at the map. We can't protect all 3. We're not going to protect any of them, Daeho said. We're going to lead the Devourer away. Make it chase us to a battlefield of our choosing. Engineer Bok soon frowned. How do we make something that size chase us? It ignores most ships. We make it notice us. Daeho turned to Taesung. Commander, I need you to hurt it. The plan was risky. They would deploy a micro-drone carrying one of their quantum disruptor weapons. The drone would get close to the Devourer and fire. If the weapon worked, it would create a wound. If the entity was as intelligent as they believed, it would respond to a genuine threat. They caught up to the Devourer near a binary star system. The entity moved between the stars like a planet, its massive form blocking starlight. Up close, it was even more terrifying than Daeho remembered. The surface crawled with movement. The black tendrils reached out constantly, tasting space itself. Drone launched, Taesung reported. His hands were steady despite the fear in his eyes. The tiny drone approached the Devourer. It was smaller than a car, carrying a weapon that could theoretically damage something the size of a moon. The weapon charged, drawing power from its microreactor. 5 seconds to firing. Taesung counted. 3, 2, 1, firing. The quantum disruptor activated. For 2.7 seconds, a brilliant blue line connected the drone to the Devourer's surface. Where the beam touched, the entity's skin split. Something dark and fluid leaked out. The wound glowed with an eerie light. Then the Devourer adapted. The wound sealed. The glow faded. But the entity stopped moving. Its entire massive form oriented toward the Phoenix's position, even though they were still stealthed. It knows we're here, Hyejin said, watching her sensors spike. The stealth field doesn't matter. It felt the weapon. All hands prepare for emergency jump, Daeho ordered. Baksoon split the ship. The Phoenix separated into 17 modules in 8 seconds. Each module jumped in a different direction, appearing light seconds apart. The Devourer's tendrils lashed out, but they hit empty space where the ship had been. It's confused, Velthar observed from her station. It expected one target. We gave it 17. Keep it confused, Daeho said. All modules random jump pattern. Lead it away from populated space. For 3 days they played a game of cat and mouse. The modules would appear, fire weapons, and jump away before the Devourer could respond. They led it away from the inhabited systems, away from the crowded parts of the galaxy, toward an empty region Hyejin had chosen. The binary star system was perfect. 2 large stars orbited each other in a dance that created unusual gravitational patterns. Space itself was twisted here, making navigation difficult, but it also meant opportunities. Deploy the platforms, Daeho ordered. Over 3 days, while keeping the Devourer's attention, they seeded the system with thousands of autonomous devices, mines, sensor drones, weapon platforms, and decoys, each one carefully positioned according to Hyejin's calculations. This is the most complex trap ever built, Baksoon said, reviewing the deployment. If it works, it has to work, Daeho replied. We don't get a second chance. The refugee observers watched everything from the observation decks. The elderly Cortesian who had criticized Daeho approached him one evening. I judged you harshly, the Cortesian said. I called you a coward for fleeing. You weren't wrong, Daeho said. I did flee, but you came back. You came back ready. The Cortesian looked out at the stars. My son died in that battle 11 years ago. He stayed and fought with honor. I was proud of him. But watching you prepare this trap, I realized something. Honor didn't save him. Maybe thinking would have. Daeho didn't know what to say to that. He just nodded. On the 4th day, long-range sensors detected the Devourer's approach. It was coming, drawn by their attacks and provocations. It entered the outer edge of the system and paused, as if sensing the trap. Is it going to run? Taesung asked. Dr. Hyejin watched her readings carefully. No, look at its trajectory. It's analyzing the system, understanding what we've done. But it's still coming forward. Why? Velthar asked. Because, Hyejin said quietly. It's confident. We heard it with that micro-drone, but the wound healed in seconds. It thinks it can handle whatever we throw at it. Then it's underestimated us, Daeho said. Good. That's the first advantage we've had. The Devourer crossed into the inner system, moving toward the binary stars. Every sensor on the Phoenix tracked its approach. The trap was ready. The weapons were charged. The crew was at battle stations. Daeho stood and addressed his crew one final time before the battle. 11 years ago, I watched this thing kill everyone who stood against it. I swore we'd come back ready. Today we keep that promise. This is not about revenge. This is about stopping something that's killed billions and will kill billions more if we fail. He looked around at his crew, at the refugees watching from observation, at Velthar who had survived the first battle. We might die today. Probably will, honestly. But we'll die doing something impossible. We'll die making the Devourer afraid. And if we're really lucky, we might just win. The Devourer entered firing range. Its massive form filled the view screen, black and purple against the stars. The tendrils reached out, searching for them. All stations report ready, Taesung confirmed. Daeho sat back in his chair. All hands, this is not a drill. This is for every world that's fallen. This is for everyone who died thinking courage was enough. This is humanity showing the galaxy what we learned in 11 years. He pressed the command button. All modules engage. Show it what it means to fight humans. The Phoenix attacked and the battle for the galaxy began. Dr. Hyejin had not slept properly in 3 months. Her laboratory on the moon base was littered with coffee cups and data tablets. On the main screen, she replayed the same 3 seconds of battle footage for the 1,000th time. There, she whispered. pointing at a tiny fluctuation in the readings. Right there. Her assistant, a young researcher named Kiwan, leaned closer. I don't see anything, Doctor. The shield adaptation. It takes 3 microseconds. 3 microseconds where the Devourer is analyzing the weapon and adjusting its defenses. Hyejin's eyes were bright with exhaustion and excitement. Every weapon we used hit at different times from different angles. The entity adapted to each one individually. But what if we hit it with the exact same weapon, from the exact same angle repeatedly? What if we exploit those 3 microseconds? Kiwan understood immediately. It would be like stabbing someone in the same wound over and over. The adaptation wouldn't matter if we kept hitting before it finished adjusting. Exactly. Hyejin brought up new calculations. We need weapons that can fire in perfectly synchronized bursts, and we need to be fast enough that 3 microseconds matters. She sent her findings to Admiral Park. Within a week, the research became the foundation for Project Phoenix's weapon development. It was year 1, and humanity had found its first real hope. In year 3, engineer Bok Soon stood in the largest construction facility ever built. The orbital shipyard stretched for 50 kilometers, a massive framework surrounding Earth like a metal ring. Inside, thousands of workers and robots assembled something that looked more like a puzzle than a spaceship. Explain it to me again, Admiral Park said, walking beside Bok Soon through the construction zone. Traditional ships are built as one piece, Bok Soon explained. If you damage the engines, the whole ship is crippled. If you lose weapons, you can't fight back. Everything depends on everything else. She pointed at the modules being assembled. The Phoenix is different. 17 independent modules, each with its own engines, weapons, shields, and AI. They can operate together as one ship or split apart and function independently. If we lose 5 modules, the other 12 keep fighting. It's never been done before, Admiral Park said. Nothing about this project has been done before. Bok Soon smiled. That's why it might actually work. But year 5 brought crisis. The global economy was struggling. Every resource Earth had was being poured into Project Phoenix. Food shipments to colonies were delayed. Medical supplies ran short. In the colony on Mars, riots broke out. People were tired of sacrificing for a threat that seemed distant, and maybe not even real anymore. Daeho, now an admiral himself, traveled to Mars personally. He stood in the colony's main plaza while angry colonists shouted at him. Some threw rocks. Security wanted to intervene, but Daeho waved them off. You're angry, he said, his voice amplified across the plaza. You have every right to be. I'm asking you to give up comfortable lives for something you've never seen. I'm asking you to trust me that the threat is real. We weren't there, someone shouted from the crowd. We only have your word. Daeho nodded. That's fair. So let me tell you what I saw. I saw ships with thousands of crew members vanish in seconds. I saw weapons that should have destroyed planets bounce off that thing like rain off a window. I saw brave warriors die because they thought courage was enough. He paused, looking around at the crowd. The Devourer has consumed 43 star systems since we retreated. 43, that's billions of lives. And it's moving toward the core of the galaxy, where most civilizations live. In 5 more years, maybe 10, it will reach human space. When it does, no amount of wishing or hoping will save us. The crowd was quieter now. Daeho continued. I'm not asking you to sacrifice forever. I'm asking for 6 more years. 6 years to finish what we started. Then we go face that thing, and either we stop it or we die knowing we tried everything. Those are the options. I choose trying. The speech didn't stop all the protests, but it helped. People went back to work. The sacrifices continued. Later, historians would call it the 11 years or 11,000 speech. Daeho just called it the hardest thing he ever did. Year 7 brought disaster. The weapon systems that Dr. Hyejin had designed needed to be tested. They chose a small moon in an empty system, placed the prototype quantum disruptor in orbit, and fired. The weapon worked too well. Instead of creating a small controlled burst, it triggered a chain reaction. The moon didn't just explode. It ceased to exist, and the blast wave destroyed 3 nearby satellites. Thousands of scientists and workers on those satellites died instantly. Hyejin sat in her office, staring at casualty reports. Kiwan, her assistant, entered quietly. Doctor, the investigation found no fault in your calculations. 3,000 people are dead because of something I designed, Hyejin said, her voice hollow. 3,000 people died testing a weapon to save billions, Kiwan corrected gently. That's war. People die, but they died moving us forward. The investigation took months. Politicians called for the project to be shut down. The families of the dead demanded answers. Ai-jin testified before countless committees explaining what went wrong. In the end, she found the problem. The weapons were designed to overpower the Devourer's shields, to punch through by brute force. But that wasn't the answer. The entity was too good at absorbing and redirecting energy. They needed to be precise, surgical, exploiting those 3-microsecond windows with exact timing rather than overwhelming power. The new weapon designs were smaller, more focused, and infinitely more complex. They would either work perfectly or not at all. There was no middle ground. Year 9 changed everything. The first refugee ship arrived at Earth. It was a battered transport carrying survivors from a dozen different species, all fleeing the Devourer's path. Among them was Velthar, a Velthani warrior who had fought in the original battle. Daeho met her personally. She was tall, with blue crystalline skin that marked her species. When she saw him, her expression was complicated. "I remember you," she said. "You're the human captain who fled." "I am," Daeho admitted. "And you're one of the warriors who stayed." "I stayed because I was on a ship that couldn't run fast enough," Velthar said bitterly. "I survived because I was on a boarding mission to another vessel when the Devourer took my ship. I watched everyone I knew die. Then I spent 11 years running, watching that thing consume everything behind me." "I'm sorry," Daeho said simply. Velthar studied him. "Are you really building a weapon to fight it? Or is this just human theater, pretending you can make a difference? Come and see." Daeho took her to the shipyard. Velthar walked through the construction zones, watched the modules being assembled, studied the weapon systems. She met Dr. Ai-jin and listened to explanations about quantum timing. She talked with Baksun about modular design philosophy. Finally, she returned to Daeho. "I want to help." "We weren't going to ask," Daeho said honestly. "You've been through enough." "My people had something called 3-dimensional combat awareness," Velthar explained. "We could fight in ways that most species couldn't understand. Your pilots are good, but they think in straight lines. I can teach them to think in spirals." She became the head combat instructor. Human pilots learned to move their ships in ways that seemed impossible. They learned to anticipate not where an enemy was, but where it would be in 3 seconds, factoring in gravity, momentum, and probability. The training was brutal but effective. Year 11 arrived faster than anyone expected. The Phoenix was complete, floating in its dock like a sleeping dragon. It was beautiful and terrifying. Silver-white modules connected by fields of blue energy. Each module was the size of a small destroyer. Together they formed something unprecedented. The original crew of the Resilience assembled on the new bridge. Daeho took the captain's chair. Taesung, now a commander with gray in his hair, manned the weapons station. Baksun oversaw engineering with a team of 50. Hee-jin ran the science division. Velthar commanded the fighter squadrons. They trained for 6 months, learning to operate as one with the ship. The Phoenix could separate into 17 parts in under 10 seconds. Each module had its own AI that could think and react faster than any human. But the AIs were limited, given strict boundaries. "Humans made the final decisions always. Why?" Velthar asked once during training. "Your AIs could react faster, make better tactical choices." "Because," Daeho explained, "AIs are predictable. They optimize and calculate. The Devourer learns and adapts. If we fight with pure logic, it will eventually figure us out. But humans? We're irrational. We make choices that don't make sense. That's our advantage." Long-range sensors detected the Devourer near the galactic core. It had consumed 43 systems and showed no signs of slowing. Projections suggested it would reach human space in 8 years if left unchecked. Admiral Park gave the final authorization. "Captain Daeho, you are cleared to depart. The hopes of humanity go with you." The Phoenix undocked and moved away from Earth. On the planet below, billions watched. Some prayed, some cried, some simply hoped. Inside the ship, Daeho stood and addressed his crew. 11 years ago we ran. We were right to run, but we didn't run forever. We ran to get ready. The bridge of the warship Resilience shook violently as another explosion lit up the darkness of space. Captain Daeho gripped his command chair, his eyes fixed on the main view screen. What he saw would haunt him forever. The Devourer hung in space like a diseased moon, Its surface writhed with black and purple tendrils that seemed alive. Where those tendrils touched the Allied warships, the ships simply stopped existing. They didn't explode. They didn't break apart. They just vanished, converted into energy that fed the massive entity. "Captain, the Velthani flagship just went dark," Lieutenant Taesung reported from the weapons station. His voice shook. The young officer was barely 25, and this was his first real battle. It would probably be his last. Daeho watched the crystalline dreadnought, a ship 3 times the size of the Resilience, get pulled into the Devourer's gravitational field. The beautiful crystal structure cracked and shattered. Pieces of it spiraled into the entity's center, where they disappeared into a swirling vortex of darkness. "All ships, concentrate fire on Sector 7, the Cartesian fleet commander ordered over the shared channel. "We must penetrate its shields." Daeho wanted to laugh, but the sound would have come out wrong. They had been concentrating fire for 3 hours. Every weapon in the combined fleet had been thrown at the Devourer. Nuclear missiles, plasma torpedoes, kinetic railguns, even exotic weapons that bent reality itself. Nothing worked. The entity absorbed energy weapons. Physical projectiles passed through its shields like they weren't there. It was impossible to fight. "Dr. Heejin, please tell me you found something," Daeho said into his communicator. In the science lab deep inside the ship, Dr. Heejin stared at screens filled with data. She was 40 years old, brilliant, and completely terrified. "Captain, I'm analyzing everything our sensors can detect. This entity operates on principles we don't understand. It's partially quantum, partially something else. Our weapons literally cannot touch it in any meaningful way." "Can we run?" Daeho asked quietly. There was a pause. "Yes, our experimental jump drive can make a blind leap. We'd have no idea where we'd end up, but we'd be away from here." Daeho looked at the view screen again. Another ship died. Then another. The fleet that had been 200 strong 3 hours ago was now down to 47 vessels. The Resilience was one of the smallest ships present, a human patrol cruiser that had been invited to join the Galactic Council's military response, only because humanity insisted on sending someone. "Captain, we're receiving a direct transmission from Earth Command," Taesung said. Admiral Park's face appeared on a side screen. She looked older than Daeho remembered. "Captain, you are ordered to retreat immediately. Use the experimental drive. Get out of there." "Admiral, if we run, we abandon the fleet." "The fleet is already dead, Captain. They just don't know it yet." Admiral Park's expression was hard. "Humanity needs data. We need you to bring back everything you've learned." "That's an order." Daeho felt his jaw tighten. He wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. "Understood, Admiral." He switched to the fleet channel. "This is Captain Daeho of the Earthship Resilience. We are withdrawing from the battle to regroup and develop new strategies." The response was immediate and angry. The Cartesian commander's voice dripped with contempt. "The humans flee? We knew your species lacked courage. Run home to your primitive world while real warriors fight." Other voices joined in, mocking and dismissive. Humanity had only joined the galactic community 30 years ago. The older species still saw them as children, barely worthy of respect. "Let them talk," Daeho said to his crew. "Engineer Baksoon, charge the jump drive." In the engine room, Engineer Baksoon worked frantically. She was 60 years old, had been working on ships since she was 16, and had never seen anything like this battle. Her hands moved across the controls with practiced efficiency. "Jump drive charging, Captain." 60 seconds, the ship shook again. A piece of debris from a destroyed cruiser bounced off their shields. Through the view screen, Daeho watched the Devourer move slowly through the fleet, methodical and unstoppable. It didn't hurry. It didn't need to. 30 seconds, Baksoon announced. "Captain, the entity is turning toward us," Taesung said, fear clear in his voice. Daeho saw it. The massive form shifted, and dozens of the black tendrils began reaching toward the Resilience. The Devourer had noticed their preparations to flee. "Jump drive ready, Captain. Do it now." The universe twisted. Daeho felt his stomach turn inside out. Reality bent around them, and for a moment that lasted forever and no time at all. The Resilience existed nowhere. Then, with a violent lurch, they snapped back into normal space. The view screen showed empty blackness and distant stars. No fleet, no Devourer, just silence. "Status report," Daeho ordered, his voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding his system. "Hull intact, shields at 40%, no casualties," Taesung reported. Navigation systems are scrambled. Working on getting our position. Dr. Hyojin's voice came over the intercom. Captain, all battle data has been recorded and backed up. We have 3 hours of detailed sensor readings. Where are we? Daeho asked. It took 20 minutes for the navigation computers to figure it out. They had jumped 17 light years in a random direction. It would take 2 weeks to reach the nearest human colony using conventional drives. Daeho slumped in his chair. They had survived. They had escaped. But at what cost? He thought about the Cortesian commander's final mocking words. The alien thought humans were cowards for running. Captain, I'm picking up faint signals from the battle site, Taesung said quietly. Debris fields. No active ships detected. The fleet was gone. All of them. Every ship, every crew, every species that had mocked humanity for retreating. Dead in less than 4 hours. Set course for Earth, Daeho ordered. Maximum speed. The 2-week journey home was quiet. The crew processed what they had seen. Dr. Hyojin buried herself in the data, trying to find any weakness in the entity. Baksun maintained the engines, keeping them running at maximum efficiency. Taesung spent hours staring at the star field, thinking about all the warriors who had called them cowards. When Earth finally appeared on the view screen, Daeho felt something he hadn't expected. Determination. They docked at the orbital station, and within hours, Daeho was standing before the United Earth Council. 50 representatives from every nation and colony listened as he gave his report. The entity we faced cannot be defeated with conventional weapons, he said. Every advanced species in the galaxy threw their best technology at it and failed. They're all dead now. Then what do you propose, Captain? One counselor asked. Daeho placed his hands on the podium. I propose we take our time. We study the data. We build something new. Something that can actually hurt this thing. The Galactic Council tried courage and firepower. They lasted 4 hours. I say we try something different. I say we try human stubbornness. He paused, looking at each counselor. Give me 11 years. Give me resources and freedom to try things that seem impossible. Let Dr. Hyojin, Engineer Baksun, and every brilliant mind on Earth work on this problem. In 11 years, we'll return to face this entity, and this time we won't retreat. The council chamber was silent for a long moment. Then Admiral Park stood. The captain has my full support. We call it Project Phoenix. We'll build something from the ashes of that defeat. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would spend 11 years preparing. They would not waste their survival. They would not forget the debt they owed to all those who had died. As Daeho left the chamber, Dr. Hyojin caught up with him. 11 years is very specific. Why that number? Daeho looked out at Earth through the station's windows. Because 10 years sounds like we're rushing. 12 sounds like we're stalling. 11 sounds like we did the math, and that's exactly how long we need. Hyojin smiled slightly. And did you do the math? No, Daeho admitted. But we will. Starting tomorrow, we do the impossible. We figure out how to kill something that can't be killed. The Resilience was decommissioned the next day. Its crew scattered to different projects, all part of Phoenix. The 11-year countdown had begun. Humanity had run once. They would not run again.